Hello and welcome to the Bonsai Show. It's been 3 to 4 weeks since the event, the Bonsai Show Live in Telford, and I thought now would be a good time to do a quick recap on what's been going on at the nursery. A fair few things have changed, not least the quite significant and fast movement from what was end of summer through to what now feels almost like mid-autumn. The leaves are dropping off the trees, and another anomaly I noticed just as I came over to film this piece is the Japanese quince that is flowering just over here to my left. But other things that have changed, you'll notice that the bamboo screens are now completed. The plinth that we started looking at in the previous episodes is now finished and completed, along with the Hokkaido juniper sat on top of it, which we'll come back to in a minute. The plinth, just as we stated in the build and the mock-up process, has a turntable so that we're able to maneuver the tree around to get even light, and we do that about once a week. But we'll come back to a few of the other changes in the nursery shortly. I want to take a little bit of time to talk about the Hokkaido blue juniper. I think it was episode 3 when we discussed that the tree wasn't looking particularly healthy. We cut a 20mm groove all the way around the edge of this pot, filled it with pumice and put in some Oceana root boost to give the tree some health, and I think at that time we stated really that would be it, with the exception of feeding and watering for 12 to 18 months. But I wanted to show you the way that the tree has recovered and the vibrance that this tree now has. And I actually think that we'll be able to go ahead with some of the primary branch placements on this tree. We won't go full hog and do a complete styling on it unless I get carried away, but that's not the plan. So I think the moral of this story is, although in bonsai we talk about extended time periods and trees taking years to be able to be ready for the next stage, this tree will show you that those time frames can be brought forward and your expectations can change as we go along. And now we're off to a viewer's garden in the West Midlands, who recently moved into a new house, inheriting someone else's gardens, and runs through the challenges of bringing a bonsai collection into that kind of garden.
So I'm just going to do a quick video tour of the garden. It's the back garden to the house. We moved in to the house, bought the house in December 2021, and it's now July. It's not too bad at the moment. It's fairly early morning, and so I'm just going to take you around the garden. So this is a shed where I work when it's wet. It's just a basic shed. I've just got bits and bobs, all my things to hand, my pots, big turntable, good lighting. It's very warm in here though. It's just the patio area. Just a couple of trees on here. Nice big maple. It's anywhere where I can cram plants really. And I've reduced my collection quite considerably since moving in. A couple of olives there. With a couple of maples. Just defoliated the trident maple on the left. the big man shed. It's still full of bits and bobs from moving in. It's the last thing to do. Garden, grass is awful. Plans for that are basically going to gravel it all. Before we moved in, they had a couple of dogs, I think, and we've got 3 dogs. I don't think it's helped. So a few of my trees, nice azalea, ginkgo. I like my accent plantings, love hostas, mini hostas, Korean hornbeam there. Sabina juniper. It's got a really nice trunk. I'll see if I can show it. Nice big Scotty. And another azalea. It's a real project tree for me. I've been working on for quite a while. English yew. Coming on what? One of the new posts I'm building out of old pallets. Scotty. Japanese white pine. Another yew. Kids' rabbits. A larch forest group. A few of the smaller trees. Some of my accent plantings. Just got quite a lot to pot up. Really love these mini hostas. And some of the mid-sized ones I've just started to pop up so I can display them a little bit better. Some more hostas. Big old thick trunk blackthorn there is coming on. I love the hostas. Just doing something somebody showed me quite recently in terms of the fertilisers I'm applying. I think, like many, I had a problem with them drying out and going a little bit crusty on top, forming a crust, so I've been putting fairly decent quality sphagnum moss over the top just to keep it sort of wet and active. On this blackthorn, got the moss on the bottom, some biogold there, just keeping it wet. Quite a lot of fertiliser, some biogold on this maple, and moss on the bottom, just keeping it moist so it doesn't dry out too much. That's about it.
It's certainly great to see gardens evolve as you move into new properties, and really that change from what you inherit from a previous owner, and we'll certainly be looking forward to another video from that garden in the future. But I wanted to take a little bit of time now to talk about the trees that were featured as part of the demonstrations at the Bonsai Show Live 2022 in Telford. And this is the selection of trees that we have still at the nursery. Obviously, Hairy Arrington Tony Tickle and John Armitage took their trees away with them after the event. But here we have the tree that was styled by Rafael Torres from Spain. This tree will stay at the nursery for the foreseeable future. We'll give it a new pot in spring, and we'll see further development as it fills in over the coming years. Next up we have a tree that was transformed from a piece of raw material by Nacho Salar from Spain. This was quite a complicated whole day transformation and demonstration by Nacho and his team from Bonsai Nara in Malaga in Spain. This tree will go back to its owner, I should say, hopefully in the next few weeks. We have a nice little tree tucked away here, little juniper. This was Morten Albek. It actually looks really small compared to the other trees that we have here. But this in itself is still a reasonably sized tree at something like 30 centimetres or 12 inches tall. So this tree has been purchased from the nursery and will be moving on later on next year. Once again, a new pot needed on that one. The next two trees are going back to large size trees. This tree is a Scots pine, as was the Nacho demonstration tree. This one belongs to a good friend of mine. The tree was styled by Tomaz Kovcs and aided by one of our good friends from the nursery as well, Gus. So a big shout out to him. This tree is termed the Italian job, collected in the Italian Alps. And as you can see, it has had an angle change, pretty much well like the Morten Albek juniper. So when it's next repotted by its current owner, it will need to incorporate that kind of change in the pot. And the final tree is a Mugo pine. Again, it was bought in just for the event. This is styled over a whole day by Peter Warren, assisted by Caroline Scott. Complete wiring, restyle, working on dead wood. It had to be secured in the pot for the demonstration, but again you'll see we have a block underneath the end of this pot to raise it on one side, which is the angle at which it was restyled. So again, when this goes through a repot by its owners, it will need to incorporate that angle change in this pot. So that's it for the trees that we have here at the nursery. They're probably available for viewing for the next few weeks, but beyond that, these trees will go back to their rightful places, with the exception of the odd one which will stay here. Now we're going to bring in another feature from the Bonsai Show Live in Telford, and it's a pre-recorded interview that we had with Tony Tickle, who was one of our demonstrators and helpers for the event in terms of all the assistance that he gave.
My wife once said to me, she says, "I know where you are. You're never down the pub, you're always down the garden." I'm Tony Tickle. I'm from the north of England. I started doing bonsai when I was 27 years of age, and it was a neighbour who invited me into his garden, and what he did was he collected trees from the wild as he was walking along, and he would plant them in a bucket or in a washing up bowl or whatever. He did the fatal thing of giving me a little oak tree, which I duly wired, stuck in a bonsai pot, and it died 3 months later. But he said, there's a bonsai nursery nearby, I suggest you go and visit that. And really that's where I got infected. Because bonsai to me is a disease, and it's something that you can never shake off. There are cures, and those cures are done by getting more trees, and that's kind of really the start for me. I think the thing that I have finally got right is the ability to see in the raw material what the finished tree will look like. So I can look at a piece of raw material and say, yeah, that's okay. No, that's not okay. It's not enough for something to simply have taper or all bark or movement. You've got to be able to visualize where that will be in 10, 15, 20 years' time. And that has only come about through visiting exhibitions, looking at books. I have looked at thousands and thousands of trees. This is a simple question to answer, and it's patience. Patience is the one thing that all of us lack, and even now I'm eager to actually get my hands on a tree and start working it and getting it wired and getting it styled and getting it into a bonsai pot. But I've reached an age now where I know that if I've worked a tree too soon, I put it back 2 or 3 years. So now I know that I've got to, you know what, just leave it another year, leave it in the pot, and it'll be so much better to work. The best piece of advice I can give to anybody starting in bonsai, particularly if they're young, is get trees in the ground, start learning from the best people you could possibly find. That's something I did. After 1991, I sought out the best teachers I could find. The best teacher at that time was Dan Barton, and I had many, many workshops with Dan Barton. He was by far the best person at that time. And then, of course, I started to travel more, and I was learning from Takeo Kawabe, I was learning from Hotsumi Terakawa, I was learning from anybody that I could get some information from. And the nice thing as well was I had a couple of friends who I sort of brought along with me, you know.
So we do have to thank Tony Tickle for all of his help and assistance, not only during the weekend of the Bonsai Show Live, but in the run-up. He's a great personality and a great character, and we're really, really happy to have had him on board for that assistance and for the great demo that he did. One of the things that Tony picks up on during his interview is looking to put material in the ground to thicken it up and make it a better piece of bonsai material over a number of years. And now is a great time to be hitting garden centres where they should be selling off stock which has either remained kicking around for too long, doesn't conform to the kind of straight convention of a garden centre piece of material. So my advice is to get out there, to scour the garden centres for their reduced and clearance sections and see what they have in. You can pick up some quite nice material. Me personally, I don't get out anywhere near enough. What I have managed to pick up, and it's not the best of material, but is a dwarf bamboo that we will split in mid-spring and bring those through probably as accent plantings going forward. In terms of more immediate work, the polytunnel really at this time of year becomes a place where we spend most of our time working. It shelters us from the wind and the rain. But in order to work in here and effectively keep plants over that autumn and winter period, we do need to make some changes. And the first one is to take down the shades that do a great job of preventing some of that sun entering the polytunnel over the summer period. We have a completely south-facing side of the polytunnel, so all day during the summer we get full-on sun, and without those shades it would be far too hot to work in. It's far too hot for some people already, but it would be definitely unbearable in the summer. And you can see we've taken down 2 of the shades. We've got one still to take down, which we'll do fairly shortly. And another job that we'll be doing is to clean down, to wash the film on the polytunnel. And again, that really just increases the light levels that are available to trees that we'll leave in here, such as the olives going forward. But that's it for this episode. I do have some jobs to do, least of all carving a pumpkin. I do it every year, and I need to go and find a pattern for this one. But don't forget, the clocks go back an hour this weekend. It does mean you get an extra hour in bed, or you can get up at the same time and have an extra hour of bonsai. But either way, we'll catch you on the next episode. Ah, you're still here. But while I've got you, I suppose I should plug another feature that we're releasing, and that is throughout the month of November, we will be releasing one short video every day, which will contain hints and tips for bonsai, as you would expect. So that is November, spelled Knowvember, one every day, starting on the 1st of November. See you there.